I want to start today with a thought experiment. It's a feeling I think everyone has had at some point.
Hmm.
You're scrolling, reading the news, and you see a headline about some court case, maybe charge gets dropped or there's a huge settlement, but nobody actually admits they did anything wrong.
And you get that pit in your stomach.
Yes, that feeling of, wait a second, that isn't right. That isn't justice.
It's that visceral gap, right, between the law on the page and the justice we feel like in our bones.
Exactly, because we have this very polished image of justice. You picture a courtroom, all mahogany wood, a judge in a black robe. You picture the statue,
Lady Justice.
Lady Justice. She's calm, composed, holding those scales. And we think, okay, that's the system. That is how we balance the world.
But what happens when that system hits a wall? I mean, what happens when the problem is so big or the network of power is so tangled that those scales just snap?
That is the mission for this deep dive. We are looking at a stack of sources today that is, honestly, a bit of a wild mix.
Yeah.
We've got dense German philosophy from the 19th century, we have ancient Greek mythology, and then, just to make it interesting, we're applying it all to that massive data dump we saw last month, January 2026.
The Jeffrey Epstein files.
Mhm.
It sounds like a strange cocktail. I know Schopenhauer meets the DOJ, but it actually works perfectly.
It really does, because the sources argue that our modern idea of justice is only half the picture. We all know Lady Justice, Justitia, but there's another figure, an older, maybe darker goddess we've forgotten,
Her name is Nemesis,
the goddess of retribution.
and crucially, the goddess of cosmic balance.
So today we're going to unpack this theory that maps these two goddesses onto Schopenhauer's philosophy to understand why the headlines, about Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and these 2026 documents feel so chaotic.
And why the courtroom might not be enough anymore. Why we might be entering an era where the rules of the game are changing completely.
Okay, let's dive in. To get this, we have to start with the heavy lifting. We have to talk about Arthur Schopenhauer. Now, I know for some people that name just brings up boring college lectures. The pessimist, right?
He is often called the philosopher of pessimism, yes?
Yeah.
I mean, the world as will and representation is not exactly light beach reading,
Not at all.
but our sources point out his breakdown of justice is incredibly sharp and surprisingly very relevant. He doesn't see justice as one thing. He splits it.
Into two worlds.
Two distinct worlds.
Yeah.
Temporal, Justice Zeitliche Gerechtigkeit, and eternal justice, ewige Gerechtigkeit.
Okay, let's break these down. Temporal justice. This is the one we already know.
Yes. This is the realm of law, punishment, social order. It happens in time. That's why it's temporal. It's administered by people.
Judges, juries, police.
Exactly. And Schopenhauer says this kind of justice is based on egoism and this idea of individuation.
Individuation. That sounds pretty technical. What does he mean?
It's the principium individuationis. It's basically the illusion that I am me and you are you, that we're separate.
Okay.
In the phenomenal world, the world of appearances we see and touch, we look like separate beings. So if I steal your car, I've gained something and you've lost something.
Right. It's a zero-sum game. I win, you lose.
Precisely. So temporal justice exists to fix that imbalance between separate egos. It steps in and says, hey, you can't do that. It punishes me to deter others, to restore social order.
So it's the traffic ticket, the prison sentence, the lawsuit. It's practical. It keeps society from, eating itself.
Exactly. It's a human construct for human behavior. But then Schopenhauer pivots, and he introduces eternal justice. This is where it gets metaphysical.
Because eternal justice isn't administered by a judge.
No judge, no jury, no prison. Eternal justice is, as he defines it, the intrinsic structure of reality itself.
How does that even work?
Well, Schopenhauer believes that at the deepest level of reality, the noumenal level, that separation between you and me, it's an illusion.
It doesn't really exist.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We're all just expressions of one single driving force that he calls the will.
So the tormentor and the tormented are, underneath it all, the same thing.
In a sense, yes. And because of that unity, you can't actually harm someone else without, at the same time, harming yourself. The source material pulls out this really visceral quote.
I remember this one.
Schopenhauer says, "The will buries its teeth in its own flesh."
Wow. Buries its teeth in its own flesh. That is a terrifying image.
It's supposed to be. The idea is that there's no delay in punishment. With temporal justice, you commit a crime today, you might not get caught for 10 years.
Or ever.
Or ever. But with eternal justice, the harm you inflict is the harm you are. The punishment is immediate because the act itself degrades your being.
So if I'm getting this right, temporal justice is about what you do. Did you steal the car?
Mm,
But eternal justice is about what you are. You have become a thief. You've become a person who preys on other people.
exactly. You've basically shifted your own metaphysical frequency. You're living in a hell of your own making, even if you're sitting in a mansion.
This brings us perfectly to the visual part of this. I want to paint a picture here because the sources use these two ancient goddesses to represent these two worlds, and it really helps to visualize the difference.
It really does. On one side, we have Justitia.
Lady Justice, we've all seen her on a courthouse. Describe her.
She's usually in the city, the Agora. She has a blindfold. She holds scales in one hand and a sword in the other.
And the symbolism there is very specific, right? The blindfold isn't because she's, like, ignoring reality.
No, not at all. The blindfold is procedural. It means impartiality. She doesn't care if you're a king or a peasant.
She doesn't see your status.
She only sees the facts. The scales are for weighing the specific evidence in a specific case. And the sword, well, that's for cutting through the dispute and giving a consequence.
She restores order. She says your deeds have consequences.
Correct. She's the guardian of temporal justice.
But now picture Nemesis, the goddess of eternal justice.
She is older, darker, more primordial. And first thing, she is almost never blindfolded.
She wants to see.
She sees everything, but she's specifically looking for one thing: hubris.
Arrogance, excess.
People who think they are above the natural order. She's often shown with wings for swiftness, and she doesn't hold scales to weigh evidence. She holds a measuring rod or a wheel.
The turning wheel of fortune.
Or sometimes a whip. She doesn't stand in the city. She stands at the edge of the cosmos. She isn't a judge. She's a correction.
She restores cosmic proportion.
Yes. So while Justitia says your deeds have consequences, Nemesis says your being has consequences.
That distinction is so important. Justitia tries to fix a specific mess, like a theft. Nemesis fixes the imbalance in the universe itself.
Justitia restores balance between people. Nemesis restores balance within the fabric of existence.
And this is where we have to pivot. Because this all sounds very mythological until you apply it to the mess we are all wading through right now. The sources use this exact framework, Justitia versus Nemesis, to analyze the Epstein situation.
Specifically in the context of early 2026.
Right. And to set the scene, we have to remember what just happened. On January 31st, 2026, the DOJ finally released that huge tranche of documents.
Over 3 million pages. Documents, videos, images, everything.
And this was mandated by that federal law passed in late 2025, wasn't it?
Yes. And this data dump has been, well, overwhelming. It's dragged a lot of very powerful names back into the spotlight. Our sources focus on the big bosses of tech, Bill Gates and Elon Musk.
Let's zoom in on the Musk details from the sources, because this is where that Justitia versus Nemesis dynamic gets really interesting. What's in the files?
Well, according to the reporting in our source material, the files include emails from back in 2012, 2013. And these emails show Musk inquiring about visiting Epstein's private island, Little St. James.
And the context here is key. This is after Epstein's 2008 conviction.
Correct. That's the sticking point. It's harder to plead ignorance post-2008. The emails show Epstein responding, positively about availability over holidays. But, and this is crucial, the sources also note there's no flight log evidence, no photos confirming Musk ever actually went.
And we have to be fair here. The source material includes Musk's defense. He's been very loud about this on X.
He has. He says he refused the invitations. He claims he blocked Epstein's communications at the server level for SpaceX. He's basically arguing these email inquiries were either ignored or rebuffed.
And he also redirects a lot of the blame to Reid Hoffman.
Yeah, he accuses him of much deeper involvement.
And just to be crystal clear for everyone listening, as of February 2026, no charges have been filed against Musk related to this.
No charges. And interestingly, the authors of our sources state very explicitly that they believe in the innocence of figures like Musk and Gates, at least regarding the worst allegations.
Right. They aren't trying to say these guys are guilty of crimes. They're using this to make a philosophical point.
Exactly. They're using this situation to illustrate a failure of Justitia. They argue that whether these men are guilty or innocent, the process itself has failed to provide clarity. The public is just left confused.
So let's look at that failure. The expert in our source argues the Epstein case is a total collapse of temporal justice. Why?
Well, think about Justitia's tools. Scales, blindfold, sword. They're designed for clear cases. You stole the bread, here's the penalty. But this Epstein situation isn't a case, it's a labyrinth.
An opaque network of power, intelligence, finance, blackmail.
Yeah. And the sources describe Justitia's blindfold in this context not as impartiality, but as forced blindness.
That's a powerful image.
Isn't it? It feels like the system isn't blind to status. It's blind to the truth because it refuses to look. Her scales can't balance the sheer weight of the systemic corruption. And her sword. It feels like it's been sheathed.
It does feel paralyzed. I mean, you look at the history, the lenient plea deal in 2008, the suspicious death in 2019, the years of delays releasing these documents. It just creates this sense that the truth is too big for a courtroom.
And that is the terrifying realization. When the public feels that temporal justice, the courts, the laws, is incapable of handling the truth, the collective imagination shifts. We stop looking to Justitia.
And we start looking for Nemesis.
We start looking for Nemesis, we stop waiting for a judge's gavel, and we start waiting for the cosmos to correct the mistake.
So what does it look like when Nemesis awakens? If she's not filing charges, what is she actually doing? Is this just us, like, wishing for karma?
It's more than just wish. Remember, Nemesis cares about hubris. She cares about people who think they're above the natural order. So when Justitia fails, Nemesis brings a cosmic backlash.
And in our world, that looks like
Reputational erosion, the turning of the wheel. Exactly. Even without a conviction, you get this smear of association, the viral accusations, the public scrutiny that just never, ever goes away. The sources call this the self-inflicted wounds of hubris.
It goes right back to Schopenhauer's idea. The will devours itself. The suffering caused by the chaos is the punishment.
Yes. Think about the psychology of it. The chaos, the paranoia, the constant need to defend yourself, the loss of trust. That is the punishment. It's not a prison sentence. It's a state of being. Nemesis ensures that, quote, no being escapes the measure of its own essence.
That is haunting. It means even if you escape the law, you don't escape the consequences of who you are.
That is the core of eternal justice. Justitia might let you go on a technicality. The statute of limitations might run out. Nemesis doesn't care about technicalities. She cares about the energetic balance of the world.
Right.
If you put exploitation and negativity into the world, that energy doesn't just vanish because a prosecutor dropped the case. It stays with you. It becomes your reality.
It really makes me think about how we react to these news cycles. We get so angry when there are no arrests. We're all screaming, "Where is the justice?"
And we're screaming for Justitia. We want the sword. But what Schopenhauer and these myths are telling us is that when the sword fails, the wheel is still turning.
So in the context of 2026, with all these documents out, the confusion, the denials, the deep fakes, the feuds on X, this chaos isn't just noise, it's Nemesis at work.
It is the sound of the measuring rod coming down. It's the restoration of cosmic proportion. And it's messy. It's uncontrollable. It's not fair in the legal sense.
Right. Innocent people can get caught in the blast radius. Reputations ruined without due process.
And that's the danger of Nemesis. She is not surgical.
Yeah.
She is a force of nature. But she is inevitable when the system fails to correct itself.
There's this incredible final image in the source material that I want to share. It really stuck with me. It's almost cinematic.
The one in the courthouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
It describes Justitia standing in her courthouse. She's overwhelmed. Her scales are trembling because the weight of the corruption is just too much. Her blindfold is slipping. She looks small, trembling in the shadows of these powerful figures.
And rising behind her.
Rising behind her is a vast silhouette. Nemesis. She isn't angry. She isn't shouting. She's just there. A force of nature. And she whispers to Justitia, "Where measure's broken, I restore it." That gives me chills.
It's a reminder that there is a limit.
There is always a limit. Human laws can be bent. Influence can be bought. But you can't buy gravity. Nemesis is moral gravity.
So to bring it all back together,
Yeah.
we have Justitia, the justice we administer, the laws, the rules, our attempts to be civilized, and we have Nemesis, the justice we are, the justice of nature, of being.
And the lesson from Schopenhauer is that we need to understand both. We need Justitia for society to function. We need traffic lights and contracts. We don't want to live in a world ruled only by the chaos of Nemesis.
Right. We don't want vigilante karma deciding everything.
Exactly. But when we see massive systemic failures, when the big bosses seem untouchable, we have to recognize the story doesn't end there. It just moves to the metaphysical level. It really reframes how you look at the news. Instead of just seeing a legal failure, you see a tragedy in the classic Greek sense. You see the setup for a cosmic correction.
It creates a sense of patience, I think. You realize the balancing act is much larger than the 24-hour news cycle.
That's a great way to put it. It's playing the long game, the eternal game.
Exactly.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today. German philosophy, Greek mythology, the chaos of early 2026. It's a lot to take in.
It is, but it's worth thinking about.
It certainly is. And I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over. We've talked about how Justitia is struggling. We see it in the headlines every day. If our modern institutions, our justitias, continue to struggle with these complexities, with these labyrinths of power, are we inevitably moving toward an era ruled by Nemesis?
An era where justice isn't about courts anymore.
Right, where justice isn't about the gavel, but about the uncontrollable, chaotic rebalancing of the world itself. Are we ready to live in a world where the only justice left is the justice of nature?
That is the question.
Something to think about next time you scroll through your feed. Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you next time.